All right.
Yeah. I can see over here in the background. Yes. We still this side.
Think of it as something I look forward to.
And at the end of this day.
I promise you. You bet.
Give you a chance, have a seat. Yeah. Go over to the end. Go over to the end. Hold it. Like church, we're not even gonna have a seat, so. Have a second. There's no fine tuning. They just kind of squeeze together because not everybody's gonna have a place to sit.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Not everybody has a seat. Have a seat anywhere. Oh, well, it doesn't matter what our number. Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. No number. And scoot over because there's like church.
Yes.
Yeah, anyway. Hey, with the chairs. Have it the right bench. Just the bench. Just the bench. No.
Let me know whenever you're ready.
Have a seat on the bench. So this is gonna be standing. Come on in. Everybody has to come on in and close the door. Move up to the front.
All right, everyone, silence, silence. All right, you may be seated. All right, everyone, I want to thank you for your service. It's always funny whenever jurors are brought back in the courtroom and we're telling people to take a seat anywhere so we can get started. It's almost as though you all want to spend the rest of the day or the week with us. So everyone, you should have a white sheet of paper. That is your excuse for being here today. If you didn't receive one, don't worry. We'll make sure you have one. The deputy will make sure you have one on your way out. Parking validation. To get your parking validated before you walk in this heat and take that long trek in the humidity to the parking garage, make sure your pass has been validated, because there is no place for you to call where somebody will say, it's okay, go ahead, we're just going to validate you over the phone. So make sure you get that validated. You're always welcome in the 187th District Court. I'm going to call the names of the people who should be on the jury. When I call your name, I need you to take a seat in the box.
So sorry.
So then punch it.
You don't work with her.
I just heard.
All right, it's as though the jurors want to remain with us.
Yes, he wants to say hi to you.
Oh, hi.
Not just hi.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Give you a handshake and tell you something, but it's okay if everybody hears what I want to tell you, but I want to tell you first. Is that okay?
Sure, just, yes, we're not on the record. This is a new one. All right, then let's do this. Mutus firma. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I know that downstairs you were given an oath, and that was a general oath, but this time you're going to be given an oath that's related specifically to this case. So if each of you could raise your right hand for me. Do you and each of you solemnly swear affirm in the case of the state of Texas against Brandon Sierra, you will a true verdict render according to the law and the evidence, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand. State.
In the name and by authority of the state of Texas, the grand jury of Bexar County, state of Texas, duly organized and paneled and sworn as such at the January term AD 2022 of the 187th Judicial District Court of said county in said court at said term do present in and to said court that in the county and state aforesaid and anterior to the presentment of this indictment. Count one, on or about the 13th day of February 2021, Brandon Sierra, hereinafter referred to as defendant, did intentionally and knowingly cause the sexual organ of Gabrielle Guerrero, a child who was younger than 17 years of age, to contact the sexual organ of the defendant. Count two, On or about the 30th day of January 2021, Brandon Sierra, hereinafter referred to as defendant, did intentionally and knowingly cause the mouth of Gabrielle Guerrero, a child who was younger than 17 years of age, to contact the sexual organ of the defendant. Count 3. On or about the 13th day of February 2021, Brandon Sierra, hereinafter referred to as defendant, did intentionally and knowingly engage in sexual contact with Gabrielle Guerrero, a female child younger than 17 years, by touching the breast of Gabrielle Guerrero with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person. Count 4. On or about the 13th day of February 2021, Brandon Sierra, hereinafter referred to as defendant, did intentionally and knowingly engage in sexual contact with Gabrielle Guerrero, a female child younger than 17 years, by touching part of the genitals of Gabrielle Guerrero with the intent to arouse or gratify the sexual desire of any person, against the peace and dignity of the state.
All right, to that, how do you plead? All right, you may be seated. State, do you have any opening statements?
Brief opening statements, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. So members of the panel, you are now going to get into knowing about this case, right? You guys were members of the jury. We made it very clear that we were not going to be able to get into anything with relevance or specificity to Brandon Sierra, but now that changes. And now this is my opportunity to briefly lay out what we believe the evidence will show, okay? And I'm going to lay it out through the witnesses that we intend, hopefully, to have and call that you guys can hear from, okay? So the first person that we're going to put on the stand is Gabrielle or Gabby Guerrero, okay? Now, at the time, she was about 14 years old. Brandon was about almost twice her age, 27, 28. So, man, twice her age, was a family friend. And you're going to hear that this family friend, through the evidence that she gets up on the stand and relays to you, sexually assaulted her. And it's going to match the indictments that Margie just read to you. So you're going to hear about vaginal touching, breast touching, sexual intercourse, and oral sex, okay, between a 27-year-old and a 14-year-old, a family friend, and a kid, okay? Now, after Gabrielle takes the stand and lays out what happened to her back in 2021, we're then going to call April. Now, April is the mother, okay? Mother of Gabrielle. She's a little upset, right? And I think that comes across. It'll come across pretty clearly. But under Texas law, this individual is an outcry, okay? Now, we believe the evidence will show, and we believe that we're going to be able to put her on the stand to be a rare exception under Texas criminal law. She's going to be able to talk about what someone told her. Okay, so typically those kind of statements don't come in, they're hearsay, right? I heard from someone told me this. And naturally, right, through criminal procedure, you would expect that that kind of stuff can't come in, right? Take the stand. However, again, under Texas law, we believe we'll be able to put forth the inadequate support in showing that she is the first adult that Gabrielle told. She's the first adult that a child told about a sexual assault. And because she's the first in time adult, she's allowed to testify as to what her daughter told her, okay? So you're allowed to kind of use that for consistency purposes, relevance purposes. You're allowed to hear that testimony, okay? Now, if they're available, and we're not sure, I remember I told you in voir dire, there may be times where we have other things, right? We're in trial, but court business goes on. We would like to, and we hope to, put forth a sex assault nurse examiner or a doctor. Now, sex assault nurse examiner, sometimes for shorthand, we call them SANEs, right? So a SANE examiner, a SANE medical professional, okay? We hopefully will have that individual come and testify and kind of lay out for you what they expect to see in sex assault nurse examinations that are after the fact, right? Why you may not see DNA, why you may not see injury. They'll lay that out, okay? So we hope to have that individual. I'm not sure we're going to, but that's the state's intention if they're available and if we can have them, okay? After the complainant, after the mom, the outcry, after the potential and the hope that the state can put forth the nurse examiner or the doctor that was there that day, if we're able to have them, okay? We'll then have two final witnesses, the officer that showed up on scene and the detective that carried the investigation after that. Okay, a lot of what they hear is hearsay, right? I kind of just spoke about that only a couple of minutes ago. So we may not be able to get into exactly what they were told, right? The officer and the detective. Officer, think officer first in time. Detective comes a little bit later, picks up the case and takes it. But they can certainly provide some of the contours, some of the context, and what you guys can expect in special victims unit or sexual assault of a child cases, okay? Now with those officers, maybe they might read from a police report to refresh their memory. That's a legal term, but that police report isn't going back with you. That's not evidence that under Texas law, you're going to be allowed to consider, okay? That's not a judge thing, not a prosecutorial thing, not a defense thing. It's a state of Texas thing. So that police report's not going to go back with you. And neither is, you may hear a term about a forensic interview. That's a forensic interview where a child speaks with a forensic interview. That also cannot go back with you. Under Texas law, again, not a Zach thing, not a defense thing, not a judge thing. That is not evidence that will go back with you, okay? And what that person was told is hearsay. So because of that, again, complainant, the girl that was 14 at the time, her mother, okay? Hopefully a sexual assault nurse examiner, two detectives. And we believe after hearing from those 5 people, the consistency and the collaboration that we hope for to put forth, you will find the defendant guilty. Thank you.
Defense.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is the part of the trial where we're allowed to speak with you one last time before the testimony begins. And this is the part when we do opening statements. It is to give you sort of what I would call a preview, like to a movie when you're at the movies, new movies that are going to come out. They of course show you little previews and little snippets of what the movie will be about. And so here we will, of course, tell you what we believe that the evidence is going to show these next couple days. Now, this is a very important day for Brandon. He's waited 3 years for this. As you heard in the indictment, the dates are in February of 2021. Now, you will find that in your jury service, you're going to learn a lot about how everything works. A lot of times with these types of cases, you're going to hear about investigations and how they specifically conducted that, if any, in this case. Now, other times you'll see that a case as it's evolving, it's going to have a lot of missing things, missing processes, and an investigation that wasn't thoroughly conducted to find out if something was in fact the truth. An allegation, like in this case, of course, needs to be followed up on, as y'all probably know. Now, you're going to hear about 2 different families. You're going to hear about Brandon's family, Brandon and his wife. And at first they didn't have children, and then they've had 2 since then. And you're going to hear about Gabby's family. Okay, her mother is April. The husband's Enrique. He goes by Kike, and all of their children. Now, so that's all this case is going to be about these 2 different families. And so through work is how Brandon met family members of theirs, and they all became friends. And so Brandon and Jodeci, since they did not have children, they would always go over to their house, right? Because they had the children at home, they couldn't leave all the time. And so they would always, hang out with them, come over on the weekends. They enjoyed each other's company. They were very good friends. Now, it's a 2-story home that they would go to, and there were children. There's a total of 8, but at times, some of the kids would go with their dad. And so, but there were always children around. It was never just the adults. And it was a 2-story home, and you're going to hear that there were rooms upstairs, like typical, 2-story home. And you could hear, even though it was 2-story, you could still hear what was going on upstairs. And Brandon was never alone with Gabby. He never went into her room. Other than one day when they were moving a bed in there, it was another gentleman and Brandon who moved the bed in there, and the father helped. Of course, people were there. You will hear that the investigators did not interview any of the potential witnesses that would have seen Brandon go into that room, like they're alleging, alone with Gabby. There were no statements. Children weren't interviewed since they were all upstairs playing, and at least to hear, what did someone possibly see? Is there corroboration with what she's saying happened? And of course, we'll be able to cross-examine any officers that came out, of course, after the fact to see what the detective did, with his investigation, to see if anything matches up. Or even, the father, was he interviewed with these days that they're discussing? Anytime that something seemed odd, that he was gone for a long time, anything like that. And you're going to see that that is missing. You're going to hear from, I anticipate that the state is going to bring you the crime scene investigator who, when he was told that the complainant said that it happened in her room, in that bed, and she hasn't changed the sheets, well, they collected the bed sheets, the flat sheet, the blanket. They even asked her if she had clothing from that day, since it was about a week before, and she had not washed it either. They collected what we would want in these kinds of cases. We got here her underwear, her short, her top. There was even a panty liner collected. That was sent to the lab. Let's find out what the results were. And you're going to hear that they were all negative, not even microscopic spermatozoa, no signs of any semen whatsoever. You're going to also hear about a few days after the police report was made, that what had happened was that when Gabby outcried to her mother, she'd just gotten out of the shower. And she came out and she was crying and said, "I need to talk to you," to her mother. And you will probably hear her testify that she thought her mother was gonna think that she was gonna tell her that she was pregnant. And so ultimately she ended up telling her, well, that Brandon's been touching me. And so a few days later, when they went to the hospital to be examined, what the findings were was that when they took the x-rays, it was actually, it had to do with constipation. She had cramping and pain in her abdomen. You get swelling, or I guess feeling bloated. It turned out that with the impressions from the x-rays, that she had moderate to large stool. That was the problem. And so you would imagine in a 14-year-old's mind, if she's seeing her tummy look a little bigger than normal and she's feeling nauseous, and it's going to be a scary thought to think why that is happening, and why is she thinking that her mother thought she was going to tell her that she was pregnant, being scared of what would happen. It makes logical sense that you would then, of course, blame someone. But that wasn't the case. They gave her a pregnancy test and it was negative. And all that she was prescribed, or at least the instructions of discharge, all they were is that she be given Myalax for her issues, from her tummy issues. And so I'm just giving you a little bit of a preview of the evidence, and I'm pretty certain that you're going to even hear that our theory is consistent. The mother, Ms. April, is going to testify that in fact was the case when she took her to the hospital. The defense theory is what's going to be credible, and that's what's going to appear consistent more than what Gabby is going to say happened to her, without any details or without telling us who might have been there, things like that surrounding this alleged incident. And I'm just going to leave you with this because there's so much more that we can talk about, but you'll see it throughout the trial. And I'm sure y'all have heard, do not judge a book by its cover, right? You've heard that saying. And why do they say that? Well, because, you get a book and you see the cover. And as you read through each page, read through each chapter, different things happen, different events take place. And by the end of that book, by that last chapter, what you might have thought in the beginning isn't what it amounted to be. And I believe that that's what's going to happen in this case, ladies and gentlemen. And I believe that the state will not be able to meet its burden of proving their case beyond a reasonable doubt. Thank you.
All right, state, call your first witness.
Your Honor, state calls Gabrielle Guerrero.
And ladies and gentlemen, you may end up seeing people come through this door. It's just for documents for me to sign. It has absolutely nothing to do with this case. And the people who come through that door, those are people who didn't read the sign that says, we're in a jury trial, do not come through that door. So again, it has nothing to do with this case.
May we briefly approach with counsel real quick?
Sure.
Very brief.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is what the court is going to do. I always try to have us take a break and leave the court. Oh, please be seated. I always try to have us take a break by 4:30. That way you all avoid the rush hour traffic. So in order to do that, I'm going to have Deputy Laura go ahead and take you to the back so you'll know exactly where you will be reporting tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to report at 1:30 because I have a docket that I have to take care of. And again, it's nothing to do with this case. It's just that I have a lot of cases on the docket. So she's going to take you to the back to show you where you will report. That way, when we break at 4:30, you'll just be able to leave and she'll make sure that, well, you can make sure that you have your parking validated, okay? All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. Oh, you can leave your items there.
Okay.
Sure. Yes. No one will bother them.
All right. Very deep.
All right, could you mute us, please?
Same. Which sane are you having?
Oh, please be seated. All right, everyone, please be seated. State, call your first witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Gabrielle Guerrero.
If you'll raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I swear.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so that members of the jury and the court reporter can hear. If you'll state your name for the record,
Gabrielle Guerrero.
state.
Thank you, Judge. Good morning. Well, I guess afternoon. So you said that your name is Gabrielle. Is that true? Right. Do you go by Gabrielle or do you go by something else?
Gabby for short.
Gabby? Okay. And can you tell us, how old are you right now?
17.
17. Are you still in high school?
No, I just graduated.
Where did you graduate from?
East Central High School.
East Central?
Mhm.
I'm gonna ask you, keep your voice just a little bit loud. If you need to, you can adjust the microphone so that it picks you up a little bit. If you need to move it, just so that the court reporter can hear what you're saying, okay? Excellent, okay. So you just graduated from East Central. Did you do any extracurriculars while you went to high school?
I was a part of a nursing program.
You were a part of the nursing program?
Mhm.
Okay. What does that entail?
It was for CNA. So I would go to the nursing homes and help go in the nursing home.
In the nursing homes? Okay, that's great. All right, so let's, I guess I'd like to start with talking about why you're here. Do you know someone by the name of Brandon Sierra?
Yes.
Okay. Do you see Brandon in this courtroom right now?
Yes.
Could you please identify him by an article of clothing?
You want me to point to him?
If you could describe something he's wearing, maybe a shirt,
A blue shirt.
a blue shirt? Okay. Let the record reflect that the complainant has correctly identified the defendant. Now, I just want to talk a little bit about how you know him, okay? So let's start with, do you remember when you met him?
Yes.
How old were you?
Like 8 or 9.
8 or 9. How did you meet him?
Through my uncle.
Your uncle. How did your uncle know him?
I think from school.
From school?
Like
Okay. What's your uncle's name?
Michael.
Michael? Okay. So they met, you knew him through your uncle and they went to school. Let's see. Did you just meet him in passing?
Yes.
Okay. And then after you met him when you were 8 or 9, was it still relatively infrequent or did you start seeing him more often?
No, it was infrequent.
It was infrequent. How did it, I guess, how often would you see him after a while?
After my uncle left for the Navy.
Okay. So what changed after your uncle left for the Navy?
My mom and stepdad got closer to him and his girlfriend at the time, now wife.
Okay. So your mom and stepdad got closer with Brandon and his wife.
Yes.
Okay. How would you say close? What do you mean?
Like best friend type close.
best friends. So like they would do things that typical best friends do. Like what?
Like they would come over all the time, house parties, go out to eat.
Okay, so you just spending time together. And how, so do you remember, I'm sorry. Do you remember when, roughly when your uncle went into the Navy? Like a year or anything like that?
No, I don't remember what year it was.
Do you remember how old you were?
No, I don't remember.
Okay. And so after he went into the Navy and your parents and Brandon and his girlfriend started hanging out, is there any reason why it was all the time aside from best friends?
What do you mean?
I mean, did anybody know each other outside of just the friend group? Just from being friendly with each other? Did anybody know, did go to school or work with anyone?
Can you ask it again? I'm sorry.
Sure. Was there any other way that everybody kind of like kept in touch or knew each other? So did anyone know outside?
Well, my stepdad and they work together.
So they started to work together?
Yeah, my stepdad got him in
Okay,
to
so
Budweiser.
your stepdad got him into where?
To Budweiser?
With a job.
Yes,
Okay. So Brandon and your stepdad worked together.
yes.
Okay. Now, do you remember, so when you were about 8 or 9, or I guess we're a little bit forward than that. So can you talk a little bit at the house parties? Let's talk about that. Everybody would hang out. You said y'all would go to dinner or you would have house parties and hang out together. What was kind of the general feeling between everybody during house parties? Like, what would everybody do?
They would just all be outside talking.
When you say they, who's they?
Well, specifically, I don't know everybody that's there, but like my family, like my mom, my brother, my stepdad, his family as well. It would be his wife, I think her cousin,
Okay.
her sister, and her sister's boyfriend. They would come over.
Okay. How many, I guess, of these folks would you hang out with when everybody was there all together?
All of them.
Would everybody be in the backyard, in the
It was
living room?
in the front of our house,
Okay, in the front of the house
in our garage.
and the
like,
garage?
yeah.
Okay. Were there ever times when you kind of just stopped hanging out with everybody?
Probably once I hit like middle school,
Middle school?
like 7th or 8th grade, I just kind of just didn't really hang out with everyone downstairs.
So is it like there was the adults doing their thing and the kids doing their
And I'm
thing?
gonna object to leading.
Sustained.
So at middle school, you kind of stopped hanging out with everybody all together, like in big group.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what would you do when you weren't hanging out with everybody?
I would be upstairs in my room.
Okay. What would you do in your room?
Watch TV or be on my phone.
Okay. And do you know what everyone else was doing while you were in your room?
I know they always just talked.
And I'm gonna object to speculation.
Sustained.
Would So at what point did things change between just hanging out to a different kind of situation for you?
Um, Are you asking like how old I was, or
If you know how old you were.
I was like 13?
Okay. Who did things change with?
with him.
And when you say him, do you mean the defendant?
Yes.
What was the first thing that you remember that changed?
It was a hug.
A hug.
Mhm.
Why was it a hug? What was significant about the hug?
Um, it was a touchy hug.
A touchy hug. Can you describe a little bit more about what you mean touchy?
Like reaching to my lower back and kind of like rubbing it.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that part.
I'm sorry, if you could make sure you keep your voice up so that the jurors can hear and both parties can hear.
Okay.
I just heard reaching lower back. and
I'm
then
sorry, if you could repeat your
Oh.
last answer.
Like a rubbing.
A rubbing. Okay. How did it make you feel, that hug?
Weird.
Weird. So then, was that the only time that he hugged you like that?
No.
Do you remember how many other times?
Like when he would come to the house to say hi or when he's leaving.
And every time it'd be a hug?
Yeah.
Did most of the hugs after that one make you feel weird?
Yes.
Did it ever move past just weird hugs?
Yes.
How did it move past a hug?
Um. He would start to kiss me.
Okay. So, where would he kiss you? Let me ask a different question. Do you remember the first time that he kissed you?
No.
What do you remember about when he kissed you?
That he liked me.
Do you remember where he kissed you?
On my lips.
Do you remember how many times he kissed you on your lips? Did he ever kiss you anywhere else?
On my boobs.
Did he ever kiss you on your cheek?
You have an objection leading?
Sustained.
So can I ask you, just to be a bit more clear, when you say boobs, what exactly are you referring to?
My breast.
Okay. So he kissed you on your mouth, and he had also kissed you on your boobs. Did it ever progress past kissing?
Yes.
What did it progress to?
Can you ask the question again?
So you said that there was kissing and that it progressed past kissing. Do you remember the first time it progressed past kissing?
No.
Do you remember what it was that the kissing moved into?
He would start to grab my boobs.
So touching.
Yes, touching.
Okay. So, and you said that he would touch your boobs. Would it be over the clothing or under?
Both.
Both. Okay. Did he ever touch you anywhere else?
Yes.
Where would he touch you that was other than your boobs?
My butt and my private part.
Okay. So your butt and your private parts. Can you tell me what are you referring to specifically when you say your private parts?
My vagina.
Okay. Now, when he would touch you on your private parts and your butt, would it be over the clothes or under?
Over the clothes.
And I'm gonna get, sorry, I messed this up. I'm gonna get a little more specific. So if we're talking just about your butt, would it be over the clothes or under?
Over the clothes.
Okay. And about if when he was touching your private parts, would it be over the clothes or under?
Over the clothes.
Okay. So did he ever have you touch him?
Yes.
How would he have you touch him?
On his private parts.
Okay. What body part of yours would touch his private parts?
My hands and my mouth.
Your hands in your mouth. And when we're talking about his private part, could you describe specifically what that means?
His penis.
Okay. Now, when he had you touch him, was it over the clothes with your hands? Was it over the clothes or under?
Both.
And with your mouth touching his private parts, was it over the clothes or under?
Under.
Now, we've talked a little bit about how all of this progressed. Do you remember, I guess, the time frame? How long did it go from one thing to the next?
No, it was just like steps.
So it would be, so when you say steps, it would be the hugs for a while, then the next, and then the next.
Yes.
Okay. And you're not quite sure how long that was? Was it a year, I guess?
I'm actually leading.
Sustained.
But it would progress over time.
Yes.
Okay. Was there, did it ever progress to some time that made you feel like it was right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you to describe that for me a little bit. So I'd like to talk about that time. So do you remember where you were?
In my room.
In your room? Do you remember who all was in the house?
Yes.
Who was in the house besides you?
My mom, my stepdad, my brothers, him and his wife,
Okay.
and his baby.
Who are your brothers?
Are you asking for the names?
Sure.
Aiden, Bentley, and Leo.
Okay. How old are your brothers?
Now,
Yes.
16, 10, and 11.
Okay, so they're younger than you.
Yes.
Okay. Did they know Brandon?
Yes.
Okay. So you described everybody who was in the house. Do you know what everyone else was doing at the time?
Yes.
Okay. What were your brothers doing?
They were in their room.
Okay. Where is their room in conjunction to yours?
On the opposite side.
On the opposite side of,
My room. on
Of
the
your room.
house. So it's my room on this side and their room on that side.
so is it like across the hall or is it down the hall?
It's across. It's upstairs. So I have like my own little hallway.
Okay. So if somebody goes into your house, they go upstairs. If they turn down one hallway, that's like yours.
Yes.
And if they go the other way down the hallway, that's other folks,
Yeah, it's my brother's.
your brother's room.
Mhm.
Okay. So they were in their room and you were in your room. Do you know where the adults were?
Downstairs.
Do you know where downstairs?
In the living room.
In the living room? Okay. So while you were in your room, what happened? What's the first thing you remember, I guess, about that time that made you feel wrong?
He came in my room and he knocked on the door.
So he, being Brandon, came and knocked on your door?
Yes.
Okay. Had he done that before?
Yes.
What had happened the previous times when he had done that before?
He would come tell me hi. And then that's when stuff would happen.
Okay. So some of the progressive stuff we've talked about would happen those previous times?
Yes.
Okay. So this time was similar. He came and knocked on your door. What happened next?
Well, I got up from my bed and I was standing by the door.
Can you
And
tell me, sorry, when you were standing by the door, was the door open?
yeah, it was halfway open.
Okay. And was he on the outside or the inside?
Well, he was outside at first and then he came in the inside.
Okay. Okay. And what happened next?
But then one of my brothers came asking him to help with something. And he told them not right now to go over there.
So one of your brothers came, what were they asking help with?
With the game.
A game.
Yeah.
So they would play games with Brandon.
Yes.
And when you say games, what do you mean games? Like board games or?
Like the Xbox, or they would show him like the games that they had or cars.
Okay. So Brandon would play video games with your brothers. and they would sometimes ask him to come and help them?
Yes,
Okay. So that's what happened this time?
yes.
And he said, in a minute, is that what you said?
Yeah, he told them to go over there and that he'll go right now in a minute.
Okay. So I wanna double check. So your brothers knew he was there at the door.
Yes,
So can they see him when he comes upstairs?
yes, he would, when he would come upstairs, he would be telling my family downstairs that he was coming to tell my brothers hi.
Okay. So he would tell everyone downstairs, I'm gonna go say hi to the kids and the video games.
Yes, and he would come to my room real quick and tell me hi and like kiss me or whatever would happen.
Okay. And then after he had visited with you, would he go and be with the boys?
No, he would talk to them like maybe like a minute and then go back downstairs and then come back upstairs and then go back downstairs.
Okay, so he would go up and down while everybody's hanging out downstairs on previous times.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to come back to the last time. So after he told your brothers, go and I'll be in a minute, what happened next?
He came in the room and he started kissing me.
Okay. And so do you know how long the kissing went on for?
No, I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember how you felt when he was kissing you?
I didn't see anything wrong with it.
So what happened after the kissing?
Um, we went to my bed.
And when you were both at your bed, what was the next thing that happened?
He pulled my pants down.
Okay. Now, when he pulled your pants down, was it just your pants or did you have other clothing on as well?
My underwear.
Okay. Did that stay on or was it both?
Both.
And so what happened after that?
I laid on the bed and he put his pants down.
Okay. And do you remember when he pulled his pants down, did he have other clothes on as well?
His underwear.
And was just his pants come down or his underwear as well?
Both.
So then after that, what happened next?
Mhm.
Let me ask you another question. While this was going on, was he still kissing you?
Yes.
Okay. Was he doing anything else?
He was grabbing my boobs.
Okay. Do you remember if your shirt was on or off?
It was
On. Okay. And so then aside from touching you there, was he touching you anywhere else?
no.
Was he saying anything?
I don't remember.
So now did he lay you on the bed or did you lay on the bed?
He told me to lay on the bed.
Okay. And once you were laying on the bed, do you remember what happened next?
Yes.
Okay. What was the next thing that he did?
He put his penis inside my vagina.
Do you remember how long that went on for?
Not long.
Not long? Okay. Do you remember why it stopped?
I pushed him off of me
You pushed him. Do you remember why you pushed him?
because it hurt.
It hurt. Did you have any other feelings?
I didn't like it.
You didn't like it. Did you say anything to him when you pushed him off?
Yes.
What was that?
To stop and get off of me.
What did he do?
He got off.
Did he stay there afterwards or
Yeah, he told me I was scared.
he told you were scared?
Yes.
Okay. How did that make you feel?
Annoyed
Why were you annoyed?
because I didn't want to do it.
And he's telling you you're scared. Did he say anything else?
No, he ran back downstairs.
What did you do? After he told you you were scared, what did you do?
I quickly got on the phone with my friend and I told her to stay on the phone with me
Okay. When you say on the phone, like on a phone call?
on FaceTime
FaceTime. Okay. Why did you get on the phone with your friend?
because if he came back, he knew that I was talking to someone
And why was it important for him to know that you were talking to somebody if he came back?
because I didn't want him to try and pressure me into doing it again.
Okay. And just so we're clear, when this was happening, did he force you to it?
Yeah.
Did you trust him?
Yes.
So when you got on the phone, did he come back?
Yes.
What happened when he came back?
I got on the phone and I turned all my lights back on. And then my friend had to go, so I called my cousin right away.
Okay. And who's your cousin?
Destiny.
All right. And so without talking about, I guess what y'all were talking about, so you, just curious, you were on the phone with her,
I was on FaceTime with her.
FaceTime with Destiny,
Yes.
when he came back later.
Yes.
Do you remember how long from when he left to when he came back?
Like 5 minutes.
Okay. So again, you were on FaceTime with Destiny in your room with all the lights on.
Yes.
What happened when he came back?
He told me to get off the phone and to give him 5 minutes.
He just wanted 5 minutes. He said he wanted 5 minutes.
Yes.
Did you know why he wanted 5 minutes?
Yes.
Why did he want 5 minutes?
He said, get off the phone. And he was like, you're just scared. Yeah. Because of what happened, I told him no to stop. And he was like, you're just being scared.
So while this is going on, you had Destiny on FaceTime?
Yes, but she couldn't hear.
She couldn't hear.
No.
Can you tell me why?
Because she was with her family. Like, she couldn't hear because she was talking to someone. But at the same time, he was a little bit further. He wasn't inside my room. He was in the little hallway of my room.
Okay. Was he speaking loudly?
No.
No. How was he speaking?
Um, just normal, kind of low.
Okay, kind of low. So did you give him the 5 minutes?
No.
Okay. What happened when you told him no?
Well, he went back downstairs.
Okay.
And then he came back again and asked again to get off the phone.
And you were still on the phone with Destiny?
Yes. And I asked her if I could go stay with her.
Okay. Did you ask her while he was standing there in the hallway with you?
No.
Okay. Did he eventually go away the third time?
Yes, because I went downstairs to ask my stepdad if I could stay at my cousin's, and I packed my bags. And
So Destiny is your cousin.
yes,
Okay. Where does Destiny live?
like a street away from me.
Okay. So you'd asked her if you could stay there.
Yes.
And what was your plan in order to get there?
I asked her if um her grandma could come pick me up.
Okay. And so you wanted to go and stay with her that night.
Yes,
Why?
because I didn't want to be there anymore.
Was there a specific reason you didn't want to be at your own house in your own room anymore?
Because of what happened.
So you had mentioned that you went downstairs and you asked your stepdad if you could go.
Yes.
Did he say yes?
Yes, I asked him in his ear so that way he didn't hear me asking if I could leave.
Okay. So you asked your stepdad, you said so he couldn't hear you. Do you mean Brandon?
Yes.
Okay. And is that because you didn't want him to know you were leaving?
Yes.
And so you said your stepdad said yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess what happened after he gave you permission to go to Destiny's house?
I ran back upstairs, packed my stuff quickly, and ran back downstairs and stayed downstairs the whole time until I left.
Okay. So when you say you stayed downstairs the whole time, were you doing that on purpose?
Yes.
What was the purpose?
So he wouldn't come back and try and force me into anything.
And had he forced you into anything, I guess, up until this point,
No.
you were just uncomfortable with the situation that had happened?
Yes.
So did you go to Destiny's that night?
Yes.
All right. I guess what happened after you got to Destiny's?
I told her what happened.
Okay. How did you feel when you were telling her?
Weird. I didn't know how to feel. I felt like shocked.
And so I think you had said you trusted him up to this point.
Yes.
Were you shocked that he would do this?
Yeah. But not really.
Why do you say not really?
Because of all of the other stuff.
Because everything that had led up to it.
Yes.
So after you told Destiny, how did you feel?
I just just let it go until she told me that I was wrong.
She said it was wrong. How did that make you feel?
I never really thought about it until she said something.
Because it had seemed normal up to this point?
Yes.
Okay. Did you talk about anything else with Destiny?
Um, that I was thinking about telling my mom.
Right. Did you tell your mom?
Yes.
Okay. Why did you tell your mom?
Because because my cousin told me that it was wrong and that it would be okay. That I would be okay. And
Were you worried about it not being okay?
I was worried that nobody was gonna believe it.
Why were you worried about that?
You know, I just was afraid no one was gonna believe me.
So if you were worried, did you tell your mom right away, right after?
No.
Did you eventually tell her?
Yes.
Walk me through when you were telling your mom. So the first thing that you remember about that.
Well, the night before, I was texting my cousin, and she was like, "I think you should tell your mom." And I was like, "I think I am, but I'm not ready." The next day, I wake up, and I was taking a shower. And as I was taking a shower, I had this feeling in my stomach that I needed to tell my mom what was happening because it wasn't right.
Now, when you say this feeling in your stomach, is it like a physical pain or like a anxious pain?
Anxious.
An anxious pain. And so you had already talked about it the night before. Had you been thinking about it? Like,
Yeah.
for how long do you think you're thinking about it?
The night.
The whole
The
night.
night.
And so when you got out of the shower, I think that's where you mentioned you got this pain that you should tell your mom because it wasn't right. So what did you do next?
I texted my mom to come upstairs.
Okay. Was she downstairs?
No, she had left, but I called her and I called my stepdad because I really needed to talk to her. But they had left, but I was like, okay, I'll just talk to you later. But she ended up coming back.
Okay, so I'm gonna pause you for just a quick sec. So she wasn't home.
Yeah.
You had texted her, she didn't answer, and you called your stepdad.
Yes,
Do you know where they were?
they went to go get food.
Okay, so it was around dinner time?
Yes,
Um, so they were away, but then they came back at one. They were away and then they came back?
yes, they were like had just left.
Okay. So did they come back because you were asking them to come back?
Yes, because I texted my mom it was an emergency.
Okay. So what happened, once your mom and stepdad got back to the house?
My mom came upstairs.
Okay. Did she come and find you in the bathroom or in your room?
No, I was in my room already.
Your room, okay. And so what happened when she got there?
I started crying, and I told her that whatever I told her, she would believe me, to please believe me.
You asked her to please believe you before you said anything else?
Yes,
Were you worried about her not believing you?
yes.
And why is that?
I don't know, I didn't think anyone was gonna believe me or my mom.
Okay. So what was her reaction to you asking, please believe me?
She started getting mad.
She got mad?
Yeah,
Okay. Why do you know why she was mad?
because I was crying and she didn't know what was wrong, and so she was getting frustrated because she was like, well, "What's wrong?"
Okay. And so did you eventually tell her?
Yes,
Do you remember what you told her?
yes.
Okay. Can you tell me?
I told her, I was like, you know how he comes over all the time, and she was like, okay. And I told her, I was like, well, he touches me, and she said, touches you how? And I told her he touches me in my private parts.
What was her reaction?
She started crying and she hugged me.
What was going through your mind at that point?
I was happy I told my mom and that she believed it.
So then after you got to get that weight lifted, what happened after you told your mom?
She called the cops.
When the police showed up, did you speak with them?
Yes,
And did you tell them what happened?
it was only one cop that I spoke to.
Just the one? Okay, them, one. But did you let that police officer know what happened?
Yes,
Okay. Now, did you tell them, the officer, every single little detail of everything that had happened?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. What happened after the officer left?
I don't remember.
Okay. Did anything else happen in relation to like follow-up things regarding the sexual assault?
Yes,
Okay. I want to talk about that a little bit. What was the first thing that happened afterwards?
my mom took me to the hospital.
You went to the hospital? What happened while you were at the hospital?
They did a rape kit.
So they did kind of an examination for sex assault?
Yeah.
Okay. Um, how did you handle that?
Scared.
Why were you scared?
I don't know, I just was scared.
Do you remember everything that happened during the exam?
Yes,
Did they talk to you about what happened?
yes.
Did you do anything else besides the exam that you remember?
Yes, but I don't remember what it was called.
Okay, can you describe it?
It was just an examination down there on my private parts.
Okay, so can you describe, I guess, what they had you do to exam down there?
Um, they put some camera or a Q-tip to see if there was anything there
So they took photos
inside. Inside.
and they took a Q-tip inside.
Yes.
How did that exam make you feel?
Uncomfortable.
Is there anything else that you can think of that happened afterwards?
I went to Child Safe and they interviewed me.
What do you know of as child safe? You might not know much. I'm just curious.
I just know that. Well, I went there for therapy, that's all I know.
Okay. So they spoke with you and gave you resources for a therapist?
They spoke with me and they were asking me questions about what happened.
Okay, so they interviewed you.
Yes,
And at that time, did they have to go into details about everything?
yes.
How did that make you feel?
It was still fresh, so I felt okay, but scared still.
Just a moment, Judge. All right, and so I just want to go through a little bit more things. Just a couple little questions. So you mentioned the house that everybody hung out in, right? Where your room was? Do you remember the address?
Of my house,
Yes. What was it?
6014 Fair Branch.
And is that in San Antonio?
Yes,
And then, so we had talked about the fact that you met Brandon when you were 8 and that this progressed over a little while. I think at one point you mentioned being 13. How old were you when the sex happened?
14.
14? Okay. And just to be clear, your brothers were upstairs
Yes,
and they were in their room.
yes.
Was there anyone else in the room with you and Brandon?
No,
Was there anyone else in the room with you during the time frame after when he came up several times?
no,
Did you ever see your brothers after that first encounter?
no.
Do you remember how old you were when everything started?
13.
You were about 13? So you think it progressed over a period of time to when you were 14?
Yes, I remember because it was when his wife was pregnant.
I'm sorry, your first what?
I remember because how old I was because it was when his wife was pregnant. That's when it was progressing.
Okay. Do you remember around when the sexual encounter happened?
Either September or October.
You think it was September, October?
Or earlier. I don't.
Not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember.
How long has it been since it happened?
4 years.
4 years? It's been 4 years? Okay. So is it safe to say you might be a little hazy
Yes.
on the exact time anyway?
Yes.
But you do remember you were 14.
Yes.
Just a minute of the court's time. Your Honor, at this time, I'd pass the witness.
All right, does anyone need a break? All right, So you can lower your hands. All right, I'm going to give you all I said we'd be back at 3:40. Is that enough time for everyone? All right, you've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed to start discussing what you've heard in this case internally with yourself or each other. You're not allowed to start deliberating at all with each other. If you hear anything or see anything about this case, you're to completely to ignore it. Everything that you would learn about this case is to come from inside the courtroom and nowhere else. Does everyone understand?
Yes.
And when you're out and about, make sure that your badges are visible because sometimes attorneys will talk about different cases and you may see people who come in and some people who come in are attorneys and they may be discussing things. All right. Everyone, please rise for the jurors. Oh, you all, there's no assigned seat up there, so you can switch it up on me. All right, everyone, please be seated. Defense, your witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Gabrielle. Did they also call you Gabby?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you a few questions. And if at any time you don't understand my question, or you'd like for me to rephrase it, I'll be happy to. If at any time you don't remember, the answer, or, we don't want you to just make something up just to say it. It's okay to say you don't remember, or I don't know. Now, you said that your uncle is how, you met Brandon and his wife.
Yes.
Okay. And so at that time, were you living in that same house?
No.
Okay. What house were y'all living in?
My grandma's house.
Your grandma. And where did she live?
In her mom's house.
I'm sorry.
It was my great grandma's house, but it was my grandma's.
Can you get closer to the microphone? I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry. It was my great grandma's house, but it was my grandma's house now. She left it to her.
All right. And how long did y'all live there?
I don't remember.
Okay. And so how long had y'all lived at the house on Bear Creek?
Bear Branch
Yes, Bear Ranch.
since it happened, or for how long we have been living there.
How long were y'all living there? In 21, how long had y'all been living there?
I don't remember.
Okay. Now, tell this jury, everyone that lived in that household in February of 2021,
It was my stepdad and my mom.
and say their names if you can and who they are.
Okay. My mom, April, my stepdad. I call him Kike.
What's his real name?
Enrique.
Okay.
My brother, Aiden. My other brother, Leo. My other brother, Bentley. Now my step siblings. Jordan. Isai. Evangelista. And Ethan.
And Ethan?
Mhm.
All right. And so you say Jordan, SIE, Evangelista, and Ethan. Those are your 4 step siblings?
Yes.
Okay. And who are their, I guess, mom or dad?
My stepdad is their dad.
All right. And so, and he's your stepdad, meaning Enrique, right?
Yes.
Okay. So those are Enrique's biological children.
Yes.
And so April did not have them,
No.
just so we can have the jury understand. And so then Aiden, Leo, and Bentley are your mom's
Yes.
and Enrique's together?
No.
Okay. So those are her children from her first relationship, I guess.
Yes.
Okay. And so then are there any other children?
No.
And so how many children does that make in the entire family? Okay. Including you, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so how often would some of those children not be at the house?
I don't remember their schedule.
Okay. Did they have a schedule?
Yes.
Okay. And so would they be in your household on Bear, on the new address? Would they all be there at the same time
What do you?
with your parents?
Yes.
Okay. So sometimes the 4 would not be there, but most of the time they were all there
Yes.
in your household.
Yes.
And so even when Jodeci and Brandon came over, it would be a full house. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. And even when they weren't there on y'all's, in your own family, that was a full house. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay. And so how many bedrooms did y'all have upstairs?
4.
All right. And how many bedrooms downstairs?
1.
And so in the bedrooms upstairs, who all in the 4 bedrooms, whose rooms were they?
It was mine and my stepsister's.
Y'all shared one room?
Yes.
Okay, and which stepsister is this? Evangelista?
Yeah, there's only one.
Okay, one girl.
Yes.
All right, so you and Evangelista shared one room,
Yes.
and now there's three left over. Who were in those rooms?
It was my brother Aiden and he shared it with my little brothers.
What's his name? What are their names?
Bentley, he shared it with my brother Bentley.
Aiden and Bentley shared one room?
Yes.
Okay,
And then Ethan and Leo shared a room.
okay,
And then Jordan had his own room.
okay. So Jordan, was he the oldest?
Yeah, he's the oldest.
All right, and so you would agree that when you come upstairs, there's like a loft area?
Yes, like we call it the game room.
Yeah, like a game room, and it had couches? Or a place to sit,
Yes.
or are you not sure?
No, yes, it did.
Okay, and so, when you say game room, what was all there?
A TV, a couch, my mom's craft stuff, and then like their toys. The
Okay,
kids'
there
toys.
were lots of toys, right?
Yes,
Okay, and so it was an open area, and was your mom's craft stuff in one side?
yes,
Okay, and then where the kids would hang out and watch TV and play with their toys, were on like the other side, right?
yes.
Okay, and so would you agree that it was actually used by the children?
Sometimes.
Okay, so then you're saying everyone would be in their rooms and not come out into that area rarely?
It was just sometimes if they wanted to go out there, they would, but
Okay,
if they wanted to go out there, they would.
so was that TV not used?
Hardly, like only whenever they would play the Xbox.
Okay, and how often would they play Xbox?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, you live there, right?
Yes.
Okay, and so you wouldn't know from outside your room, you wouldn't hear if a TV was on?
Or they would be in their rooms too, because they have Xboxes too.
Right, but could you hear if that TV was on, if they were playing the Xbox on it?
No, because I'm watching TV in my room. Because my room is a little bit, I have my own little hallway.
Okay, and so, so then would y'all all go into your rooms and lock the doors behind
Objection,
you?
Your Honor, speculation.
Overruled.
So your answer was,
We don't have locks on our room, so we would just go in our room.
okay, and would y'all close your doors? Was there a rule that you had to all close your doors?
There was no rule.
Or were the doors closed or open?
They were closed.
Okay, so, the doors were never open to the other rooms?
No.
Okay, and so you would go in your room and also close the door,
Yes.
and it would never be open either?
No.
Okay, and so, so then were there ever times when the designated rooms that were in that home upstairs, where the children were not in their designated rooms at all times?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Overruled if you can answer it.
Can you ask it again?
Were there times when the kids were not in their assigned rooms?
Yes.
Okay, and y'all could roam the house, right?
Yes.
Okay, y'all weren't restricted to only upstairs either, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, you were restricted or not?
No.
Okay, and so, so whenever, was there a routine that Jodeci, and she goes by Joe, you said earlier, right?
I'm sorry?
Does she go by Joe?
Yes.
Okay, did they have a routine when they would come and they would, greet their friends downstairs and then come up and say hi to y'all?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Overruled.
No, it was just Brandon.
It was just Brandon. So you're telling this jury that Jody never went upstairs?
No, I never said she went upstairs.
I'm sorry?
I never said she went upstairs.
Right. You're telling us that she never went upstairs to say hi to y'all, right?
Not unless my mom was coming upstairs with her.
Okay, so then she would come upstairs to say hi to y'all with your mom.
No, she wouldn't come say hi. She would go upstairs with my mom to look at her craft stuff or the cups that my mom was making.
Okay, so then adults were allowed to go upstairs as well at any time, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And so you're saying that there were not any locks on your door, right?
No.
And so when you told this jury that Brandon went upstairs, you said that your door was a little bit open, right?
No, I
Okay.
said he opened the door and it was a little bit open.
So was it ajar when he knocked? Was it ajar, meaning not completely closed?
No, when he knocked, he opened the door and then I was by the door and it was like halfway open.
Okay, and so, so at that time, you didn't ever come out of your room? Was that your testimony?
At the time, what do you mean?
Well, you discussed a time when, apparently y'all were on the bed and he put his penis in your vagina. Didn't you testify to that today?
Yes,
Okay, so on that day, you didn't come out of that room ever. He's the one that went inside. Is that your testimony?
yes,
Okay, and so having been in your room and not ever coming out, you testify that everyone else was in their room?
yes. My siblings were in their room.
I'm sorry?
My siblings were in their room.
Right, and you don't actually know this because you weren't outside of your room, if your testimony is true, right?
I do know this because they were in their room.
Well-
They were all in their room. Nobody went downstairs whenever he was down there. When he told my brother to go back, he went back to his room because I heard the door close.
Okay, but did you come out to see if he went into his room?
No, but my brothers were never really out there like that. Only sometimes whenever they would play the game, but they weren't playing the game.
Well, you're talking about that they would never do that, but on this day, you didn't look to see where they went or where they were, right?
Sure.
Okay, and so you then, would your testimony then be different now? And basically, your testimony would have to be, you don't know where your brothers were. Isn't that true?
Your Honor, I object. That's not a question.
That will be overruled.
Isn't that true?
Sure.
Okay. Now you understand that you have to tell the truth.
Yes.
You took an oath to tell the truth, right?
Yes.
Now, you testified today that at 13 or when things changed between you and Brandon,
Yes.
and you said that he would hug you and it was a touchy hug.
Yes.
Okay. And so your birthday was, when you were 13, your birthday is in July, right?
Yes.
July,
21st.
okay, 21st. 09? Is it 09 or 06? I'm sorry.
06.
06, okay. All right. And so so it was on your birthday when you turned 13, or how do you know that you were 13?
Because I remember I was 13. It wasn't my birthday, but I know I was 13.
Okay. And so now he would give you hugs that were touchy, and before you were 13, the hugs were not touchy?
No.
Okay. You would agree that Brandon is a friendly guy?
Sure.
Okay. And he would even hug your brothers,
Sure.
and they enjoyed his company, and they would jump on him and he would play with them, right?
Yes.
You would agree that he was also huggy with your family?
Sure.
Okay. And so this was not unusual that he would give anyone a hug, right?
I don't really remember him hugging people, but sure.
Well, we don't want you to just agree and say sure unless it's the truth. Okay. You testified that he gave everyone hugs normally, even the boys, right?
Okay.
Yes or no?
I didn't say he gave everyone hugs. I said he gave me a hug.
Okay. Now, all of a sudden, you're saying that when you were 13, that he then would reach for your lower back and he would be rubbing your butt, right?
Yes.
Okay. And so when that happened, did you tell your mom or your cousin? or your brothers?
No,
And where was he when he would give you this hug, rubbing your butt?
by my room.
Okay, and so every single time that Brandon and his wife came over to y'all's house, you were always in your room.
Most of the time, yes.
Okay, and so you weren't ever, where you were you happened to be downstairs in the kitchen getting something to eat or drink. When they came in, you were never in the kitchen or living area.
Oh, yes, I would go downstairs sometimes and stay down there.
Okay, so when they would come over, sometimes you would not be in your room, you would be in the common area downstairs.
Yes.
Okay, and so, so he would still come and give you hugs, right?
No,
He wouldn't give you a hug?
no, he would just say hi.
Okay, and so, so whenever he did give you this hug where he was rubbing your butt, what did you do?
Nothing, I just thought it was weird.
Okay, you thought it was weird. How long did he touch your butt for?
I don't remember.
Okay, and where were you when he was touching your butt?
Upstairs.
And so, you testified that it became, progressive and then he would start kissing you. Right? Is that what your testimony is?
Yes,
Okay. You didn't tell your mom that he had kissed you that day when you came out of the shower to tell her what happened, right?
Objection, Your Honor, improper impeachment.
All right, if you'll re-ask your question, please.
Did you tell your mom that he had kissed you?
no,
Did you tell your mom that he'd ever choked you?
no,
Did he choke you? But you don't remember that you told a medical professional that he had choked you, but in
Objection,
a
Your
sexual
Honor,
way.
improper impeachment.
All right, re-ask your question.
Do you remember telling a medical professional that he had choked you in a sexual way?
not that I remember.
You don't remember saying that?
No,
And you don't remember the first time he kissed you either, right?
No.
So where were you when he kissed your boobs?
in my room.
And all of these times, your brothers are all in their rooms with the door closed, right? That's your testimony?
I don't know. No, I don't know.
How many times did he kiss your boobs?
I don't remember.
How many times did he touch your boobs?
I don't remember.
And you said it was over the clothing and you don't remember?
But they came over a lot. I couldn't keep count.
And then your testimony is that later he would touch your private parts, your vagina over the clothing, right?
Yes,
And where were you when he did that?
in my room.
And where in your room did that happen?
Kind of like by the door, but not really.
So you have a house full of relatives and he's coming in your room each time, right?
Yes.
And touching you and kissing you.
Yes,
Okay. And you didn't tell anyone, not even your cousin that you were close to, right?
no, I hadn't told her yet.
And all the boys were in their rooms with their door closed, right?
Objection, Your Honor, asked and answered.
Overruled.
Is that your testimony?
Not all the time.
Okay. And so they would have then seen him go to your room, right? If they weren't in their room?
Yes,
Okay. Do you remember if the police talked to any of your brothers that day when y'all made a report?
no, I don't remember.
Where were your brothers when the police came?
My mom had them go upstairs.
So they were downstairs?
Yes, they were eating, and then after they ate, my mom had them go upstairs.
Okay. And did the policeman ever go and talk with them upstairs?
I don't remember.
Did the policeman talk to your father?
I'm not sure.
Did the policeman ever ask for the clothes that you were wearing on February 13th?
Yes,
Okay. And so what clothing did you give them?
I don't remember.
Do you remember you gave them your shorts that you had on?
Yes, but I don't know if it was that day or I don't remember.
Well, was it, you gave them clothing that apparently you wore that day of this incident that you're saying happened, right?
Yes, I know I gave them clothes. Yes.
Well, you just went into your drawers and gave them whatever they wanted?
No, but I don't remember what clothes they were. I don't know what I was wearing.
Okay, well, you testified earlier that you had pants on. Do you remember wearing pants or shorts?
I don't remember.
Do you remember giving them your underwear?
Yes,
Yes, so you do remember.
the underwear, but I don't know what pants or shorts I was wearing.
So you gave them your underclothing,
Yes,
okay? And did you give them whatever top you had on?
I don't remember.
And did you indicate to them that this is what you had on that day?
Yes,
And that's what made that clothing special?
Yeah.
You didn't get the clothing from your drawer of clean clothes, right?
no,
And in fact, you even gave them a panty liner that you had on, right?
yeah, it was at my cousin's.
Okay. And is that what you had on also on the 13th that you're saying
Yes,
happened? And did you show the policeman your bed of where this allegedly happened?
yes,
And did your bed have sheets on it?
yes,
And did it have a blanket? And did they take all of that with them?
yes, they did.
And from the 13th to the day you made the report on the 21st, had you washed any of that bedding?
No,
Did you give them your pillowcases?
I don't remember.
Do you remember if you were laying on the bed with the bed made or unmade?
My bed wasn't made.
Okay, and so then you would have laid down on the actual sheets, right? The fitted sheet? Or whatever sheet it had on there?
Yes,
Did it have a comforter?
I don't remember.
So you testified that your brother's rooms are opposite of your room, right?
Yes,
Okay. From standing at your doorway, if you're standing outside of your door facing out, can you see the other door to the other rooms?
you said standing out my door?
Yes, like if you're looking out from your room, do you see the doors of the other rooms?
No, if I go outside my door, I won't see the other rooms.
I'm sorry,
If I go outside my door, I won't see the other rooms.
you can't see the other rooms.
No,
Okay. How far are the stairs from your room?
um,
Well, like how many steps would you need to go downstairs approximately?
like 5 steps. I don't know.
So you were nearby when he comes upstairs, you're right there, right?
Yes, but there's like a little hallway blocking it from
Okay.
anyone seeing anything.
I'm sorry.
From anyone seeing anything. So like, I don't know. Like, I can't see if anybody's coming upstairs until they turn the little corner to my hallway of the room.
Okay. And so, so your room is the first one when you come upstairs?
No, you have
Okay.
to turn this way. Because there's other rooms, they're like kind of out in the open, like that way. And then my room's on the other side.
Okay. But it takes about 5 steps for you to get to the stairs to go down?
I would say, yeah.
Okay. Do you ever talk to your parents, or say anything while you're upstairs where they can hear you? Like, okay, I'm almost there, or I'm coming down in a second, can you, in other words, communicate
Yes,
from upstairs to downstairs?
yes,
And so if anyone's downstairs, they can hear you if you were to yell or something, right?
yes,
So, so that we can visualize, when you come downstairs, what's the first thing that's there? Is it a kitchen? You know,
It's like-
foyer, what?
It's like both. It's like the kitchen and the living room together.
Okay, and so are there, what's first though, the kitchen area or the living room?
It's like both. Like as soon as you come downstairs, you see both.
Okay, and so, are there any stools?
Yes.
There are, about how many?
I don't know, cause I don't know, we've gotten new ones, so I don't know.
Sure, okay, but from what you recall, there were stools where, you know, people can sit around. Is there like an island, a big
Yes,
island?
yes.
All right, and so, often when you have company, which would be them or any other relatives or friends, would the adults sit around that area?
Yes,
And so if you were to come downstairs, they'd be right there.
yes.
Okay, I mean, they weren't like in the other side of the house or anything,
No, that was like the only area that there's there.
so they'd have to be downstairs right there.
Yes.
So then if someone came upstairs, right, or let me just say, like Brandon, if he came upstairs, other adults are gonna see that he went upstairs. It's not hidden. It's not like a secret stairway, right?
Yeah, no, yes.
Okay. And how many steps are there to go upstairs?
I don't know.
Like if you were to run up the stairs, you know how many there would be?
I don't count them.
Now, you testified that you got up from your bed and the door was halfway open. Is your testimony different now? It wasn't halfway open, it was closed?
I think you got my words mixed up. I said he opened the door and it was halfway open, and that's when I got up. Because he was coming in to say hi, so it was halfway open.
Okay, and so you said your brother had asked him to help him with something with a game, you think. Um, and then he said, you know, go over there, I'll be there in a minute. And so do your brothers follow instructions? Like if he was to say that, then they're gonna do what he says?
Yeah, he was never mean to them. He was just like, oh, like it was not, it never mean. I was like, oh, just go over there. Like I'll be right there.
Okay, so what was the name of this brother?
Bentley.
Bentley?
Yes.
And how old was Bentley at the time? Well, if you were 14, how many years difference are you and Bentley?
Well, he's 10, so.
He's 10 right now,
Mhm.
so then you're, in July, you're gonna be 18?
Yes.
Okay, and so then that puts Bentley at, if he's 10 right now, that would be,
Like 8 or 7.
okay. It was in 21, so like 3 years,
So
so
probably.
about 7?
Yeah.
7 or 8, okay. Okay. So, did you ever see the police talk with Bentley
No, I don't remember.
when y'all call the police now? What would you say was the approximate of time that that Brandon was in your room that day?
I don't remember.
And your testimony is that he went downstairs and upstairs 3 different times, back and
Yes.
forth. He was coming back and forth.
Yes.
And who was there at the house on that day?
My mom, my stepdad, him and his wife, my brothers, of course.
Which brothers?
My brothers, Benny, Leo, Aiden.
So just 3 of them were there that day?
I don't remember if my step siblings were there, but Jordan lived there, so Jordan was there too.
Okay, so then do you not remember if all of them were there or not?
I don't think the other 3 were there. No,
You don't think though?
no, I don't remember if they were there.
So you don't really know then?
No, because I just know that my brothers and Jordan were there, but that's it.
Now, you and your stepsister share your room, right?
Yes,
Okay, and so on that day, you were in your room by yourself. Where was she?
I don't think she was there. She wasn't there. But she would have probably been in there with me.
And so when did she come back?
I don't remember that. They have their own schedule. I don't know how it was back then.
All right, so then when she did come back, let's just say it was, after the weekend or something like that, you and her would sleep in that room, right?
Yes.
Would y'all share a bed or you had two different beds?
No, she would sleep in a bed with me.
And that bed, what size was it? Do you remember?
A queen size.
Okay, and where did y'all get that bed, as a matter of fact?
I don't know.
You don't remember when Joe,
Object, Your Honor, to relevance.
Overruled.
do you remember when Brandon took it there with his cousin?
I just know that they brought it, they just helped bring it to the room. I don't know where it was from.
You don't know where it was from, but he did help take the
Take
bed
it to the
there.
room. Yes, he did.
Okay. And it was just a gift, right? Like they just had an extra bed, right?
I don't know.
You don't know the circumstances. Okay. And were you there when they brought the bed to your room
Yes, because I was cleaning it up before, so that way they could put
to
it.
get it ready? All right. And so, how long was Brandon in the room when they put the bed in there?
I don't know. It wasn't him by himself.
Yes, it was it's Jodeci's cousin, Isaiah. Do you remember him?
Yes.
Okay, and so they both were, of course, the queen, right? It's big. So they put it in there, and did they hang out in your room and talk with you, or did they just do what they were gonna do and leave?
I don't remember.
Where were you when they brought the bed?
I was in my room, but I don't remember if they just left right away or
Okay, when did they bring the bed there?
what do you mean?
When was that? How long had you had the bed in 2021?
I don't remember.
Now, you testified that you had your shirt on,
Yes.
okay? And did he have his shirt on?
Yes.
And so were you mad that he tried to put his penis in your vagina?
No,
Because you said you told him to stop and get off, right?
I didn't say I was mad. I said that I didn't like it, so I asked him to stop.
Okay. And so so you asked him to stop. Did you say it nicely, or were you, telling him get off, for you to stop?
I just said, get off, like stop, get off.
Okay. But weren't you upset that, here he's trying to sexually assault you?
I was uncomfortable.
Okay. And so, but you didn't come downstairs to tell any of the adults that were there, right?
No,
And now that you had your cousin on the phone on FaceTime would have been the perfect opportunity for her to see what was happening, right? Would you agree?
no, because the way the phone was set up, she couldn't see nothing.
Well, if you had it on your phone, not an iPad, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so if you have your phone with the person on there, wouldn't they see what's happening?
Your Honor, no object, counsel's testifying.
Sustained.
Would you agree that when someone's on FaceTime, another person can see what's on there if you show them, right?
Your Honor, objection, speculation, and counsel's testifying.
All right, you can ask your question.
Could you have turned the camera around?
No, not the way that it was, that I put it, no,
You could not have,
no. If I wanted to, yes, but no,
but you didn't choose to, right?
no.
And when you're on FaceTime, well, when you were on FaceTime with your cousin, could you see her on the phone?
Yes,
And could she see you?
yes.
And how do you know that she could see you? How would you know that she can see you? Does a little square come on there at the corner of your phone
Yes,
and it shows you what they're seeing, right?
yes,
Okay, I just want to make sure we have the same system.
no, yes,
All right, and so, you could actually also change the setting to where the camera's facing out to see what's out there, right?
yes,
You didn't do that, right?
no,
Because you testified, I quickly got on my phone on FaceTime. Right? And apparently when he came back the second time, you testified, you turn your lights back on. Was this at night?
yes,
Okay. And so were the lights on or off when he was in the room?
off,
So you had everything completely off?
yes,
Okay. And so, when your brother came to the room, were the lights on or off?
they were on,
They were what?
they were on,
Off?
on,
On, okay. And so did you turn the lights off so nobody would know anything?
I don't remember.
How did they turn off?
I don't know if it was me or if it was him that turned them off. I don't remember.
You never told anyone that the lights were off while he was in the room, right?
I'm sorry?
You never told anyone that the lights were off when he was allegedly in your room, right? You've never mentioned that till today, right?
Sure.
Then he came back 5 minutes later and told you to get off FaceTime, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
And did you get off like he said?
no,
And you still didn't show Destiny, you didn't turn the camera around so she could see that he was in there again,
she
right?
didn't know I was talking to him.
Right. Did you mute it when he came?
No, she was talking to her family.
Now, then he went back downstairs and then back upstairs again, right? The third time?
Yes,
Okay. And each time you let him back in the room, right?
I was on my bed on the phone, so
I'm sorry.
I was on the bed on my phone, so he opened the door.
Okay. And so did the door remain open?
Yes, I left it open to see if he would come back.
Now, so when you asked your stepdad if you could go spend the night at your cousin's house, you were very close to your cousin, you would agree.
Yes,
Okay. And so you wanted to go and spend the night over there with her, right?
yes,
Okay. And so when you would go to her house and spend the night, even on other times, y'all would often be on the phone, with other boys and things like that,
Objection, Your
right?
Honor, relevance.
No,
She's talking about
sustained.
other times.
Okay. On this particular night, y'all were wanting to talk to boys. Isn't that true?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance.
no,
Sustained.
Now, you testified that you were worried that nobody was going to believe you, right?
yes,
But you had the perfect opportunity to record him, right? And you didn't.
Objection, Your Honor, counsel's testifying.
Overruled.
Isn't that true? You did not.
I'm sorry,
You didn't record him,
no,
and you had the opportunity to record him.
sure, but I wasn't thinking that.
Now, the very first thing that you told your mom was, please believe me, right?
Yes.
And you knew that she may not believe you because you often don't say the truth, right?
No.
Now, isn't it true that you had had tummy issues and you hadn't had a bowel movement in like 4 days?
Objection, Your Honor, relevance?
Overruled.
You would agree that y'all went to the hospital and your chief complaint was abdominal pain and constipation and the sexual assault, right?
I don't remember.
And do you remember when you went to the hospital, you talked to a medical professional to give them information about you, right?
I don't remember.
Would you remember telling them that you were straining to pass a bowel movement? Do you remember that?
I don't remember.
Do you remember telling them that your bowel movements were very large or painful to pass?
I don't remember.
You don't remember that you had told them you had no bowel movement for 4 days,
I don't remember.
that it was hard and dry stool, rocks, or pebble-like?
I don't remember. That was like 3 years ago. I don't remember if I had a bowel movement or not.
Do you remember telling them that you had abdominal pain, usually cramps, or your abdomen was looking bigger than normal? Do you remember telling them that?
I don't remember.
And that you were feeling full or bloated?
I don't remember.
And this concerned you, correct?
I don't remember.
Do you remember feeling nauseous?
I don't remember.
And that scared you because you thought you might be pregnant, isn't that true?
I don't remember.
Do you remember one time going to the corner store with Brandon?
Objection, Your Honor. To relevance.
All right, relevance.
Judges establish the relationship.
All right, overruled.
You may answer.
Yes.
Okay. And what did y'all buy at the store? Ice or what was it?
I don't
You
remember.
don't remember? Okay. And you had shared with him a secret that you didn't want your
Objection, Your Honor,
parents.
this is going into hearsay.
All right, that'll be overruled.
Do you remember sharing with him some information that you didn't want your parents to know?
I don't remember.
That you were talking to a boy, right?
Your Honor, this is calling for speculation.
With regard to speculation, that'll be overruled.
Your Honor, we'd object to hearsay as well.
That'll be overruled.
May I proceed? Your Honor?
Yes.
Now, do you remember that?
No.
And you told him you didn't want him to tell your parents, and he did, right?
No, that's not what it was.
And that's what made you mad, right?
No, that's not what it was.
Now you remember then?
I remember that it was over my phone that I wasn't supposed to have because I had gotten in trouble about something else, but it was never about a boy.
Right, and
And
you
I
were
wouldn't
using,
tell him that either.
okay, so you do remember. So then you told him not to tell your parents about the phone because you were calling your boyfriend.
No, I wasn't. I
Okay,
had the phone and I told him I had a phone. And he was like, oh, okay. And I was like, okay. And then my mom came and she told me, she was like, why do you? And I was like, okay.
okay. And so I'm glad I refreshed your memory. So did your parents know you had that phone?
Your Honor, I'm gonna object to relevance. We've gotten way past a relationship between her and the defendant.
That goes to
Overruled.
motive. Thank you. Did your parents know that you had that phone?
No,
And you weren't supposed to have that phone, correct?
no, I was using my cousin's phone, so no.
Well, you had, right, you had a phone that you were not supposed to have, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and so you were having that phone behind her back, your mom's back.
Yes.
Did your mom end up finding out about the phone?
Yes.
How did she find out?
I'm guessing he either told Jodeci or he told my mom. I don't know.
Okay. So basically, would you agree that he was looking out for your well-being and telling the adult parents, right?
You could say that.
And that made you mad because now you didn't have those privileges anymore, right?
Sure.
Thank you. Pass the witness.
State.
Just a couple of real brief questions, Judge. So I know you've been out there for a second, just a few more. I just want to go over. So defense was questioning you about every single time that the defendant ever touched you, ever did anything. Do you remember every single hug?
No, I don't.
Do you think it was more than one time?
Yes.
Do you remember every single kiss?
No, I don't remember.
Do you think it was more than one time?
Yeah.
Do you remember every time he touched your breast?
No.
Do you think it was more than one time?
Yes.
Do you remember every single time he touched your vagina?
No.
Was it more than one time?
Yes.
Can you remember every single time something made you feel uncomfortable with the defendant?
No.
Why do you think you can't remember?
I try to forget.
No other questions, Judge, you pass the witness.
Defense.
We have no further questions.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Subject to recall. Your
All right, just make sure that you're available.
Mhm. Okay.
The state will coordinate with the defense to make sure that you're here if you're needed. Okay. All right, you may step down.
Your Honor, may we briefly approach?
Ladies and gentlemen, I know that I said that I would try to get you all out of here each day at 4:30. All right, say, call your next witness.
The state will call Dr. Nancy Kellogg, Your Honor.
All right, can you raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, you can lower your hand, have a seat. Just make sure you keep your voice up so that members of the jury and the court reporter can hear. All right, if you'll state your name for the record.
Dr. Nancy Kellogg. Kellogg.
Right, state.
Hi, Dr. Kellogg. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Now, Dr. Kellogg, before we get started, do you have any impairments?
Yes, I'm hearing impaired, which means I read their lips and I might need for some questions to be repeated.
Absolutely. Now, Dr. Kellogg, can you please spell your name for the court reporter?
Yes, Nancy Kellogg.
Now, Dr. Kellogg, can you please briefly introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
You want me to describe educational background? Is that?
Yes, ma'am, yourself and your educational background.
Okay, I'm a professor of pediatrics. I work with the Department of Pediatrics at the University of Texas Medical School here in San Antonio. I'm also the division chief of child abuse. So we have a special division of physicians and nurses that evaluate children for possible maltreatment. My educational background, I graduated from college in 1978. I went to medical school here in San Antonio between 81 and 85. After that was 3 years of training in pediatrics, which was completed in 1988. So since 1988, I've been working in the Department of Pediatrics, mostly evaluating children that are referred for possible abuse or neglect.
Now, Dr. Kellogg, you are licensed in the state of Texas, correct?
Yes, sir.
And how long, I know you mentioned years, about how long have you been licensed for?
Well, when I completed my medical school in 85, I became licensed at that point.
And during the course of your duties, do you ever examine people that have been victims of sexual assault?
I evaluate children for suspected abuse or neglect.
And for those expected abuses or instances of abuse or neglect or sexual assault, how many times have you done that? How many examinations?
Well, my total number of examinations is well over 10,000.
And in general terms, Dr. Kellogg, what does your examination typically consist of?
For sexual abuse, physical abuse, or neglect.
And do you mind taking them piece by piece? So for sexual abuse, what would a typical exam have or consist of?
Well, a typical exam depends a little bit on whether the child can talk to me. So if they're verbal, I begin with that. I usually try to get a history from the child. After I get the history from the child, and there's several parts to the history. So I usually start out with doctor-like questions, asking them how healthy they've been, if they've ever been in a hospital, and I go through that first. Then I ask who they live with. I sometimes will ask if they feel safe where they're living. And then I get into, do you know why you're here today? So those are the general approach that I use for children that are able to answer those kinds of questions. So it depends on their development and age. After the history from the child, I do a complete physical examination. So it's a head to toe examination. I will also do a very specialized, detailed exam of the genitals and the anus. I use like a microscope that allows me to see that area well. And then I would do testing for sexually transmitted infections, depending on the history that the child has given me. So I don't do all tests in everybody. It depends on the history. It depends on the timing of when things may have occurred.
And speaking to timing, can you briefly explain for the jury the difference between an acute and a non-acute examination?
So an acute examination has one extra component. That's an exam where we look for DNA, we do the evidence forensic kit, and those are generally conducted when the last sexual contact is within 120 hours. So if that happens, they go to a different place for that. For my exams, I'm seeing kids who are non-acute, so they are coming into a clinical setting more than 120 hours after it happened.
And Dr. Kellogg, how common in your professional experience across 10,000 plus examinations, how common is it that the outcry is delayed by a week or more?
It's very common.
If you-
Uh,
How common is it?
I don't know how to quantify that, but, I mean, I would say when you're dealing with children as opposed to adolescents who are sexually abused by not strangers, but other people, it's very common for them to delay months or years, or even a week.
So with respect to the percentage of individuals you see wherein it's non-acute, so more than 5 days or 125 hours, you would just say it's a great percentage.
Well, for me, it's 100% have delayed disclosures because they're seeing me more than 120 hours from when it happened.
But in general, in your practice, it's or within the sphere of examinations, acute and non-acute, outcries are commonly delayed.
Yeah,
Now, Dr. Kellogg, with respect to non-acute examinations, particularly for individuals in their teenage years, how common is it that you find injury or, to any member of the anogenital area?
it's very uncommon. It's fewer, if we're talking about females and adolescents, it's significantly fewer than 10% will have any kind of a finding that suggests healed trauma.
And why is that, Dr. Kellogg? Why is it so uncommon to see any form of injury?
Well, if we know that abuse has occurred, then the two possibilities are that the type of sexual contact did not result in visible injury to begin with, or it did and it healed quickly and completely.
So even if an individual said it may be hurt or they felt pain, would it surprise you if there's no injury to corroborate that?
It would not surprise me. It's typical for that history with pain and or bleeding to still have a normal exam.
And can you talk about the tissue, the tissue of an adolescent, young girl and kind of what you expect in your examinations when viewing the tissue of kind of a younger woman, a younger girl?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
And to rephrase, is that skin made to heal quickly or slowly or?
All I can say from experience that when there's acute trauma, like somebody comes in within 120 hours and we see those kids in follow-up, the vast majority of them completely heal back to normal. So even if there's a tear in the hymen, we often see a normal exam on follow-up rather.
So even if something is aggressive as a torn hymen, you've seen heal within that 5 days.
I can't say within that 5 days, I'm saying with follow-up.
With follow-up.
Normally we follow up 2 to 3 weeks after something has occurred. So either 2 to 3 weeks or longer. I can't comment on within 5 days.
No, that was my poor phrasing, but yes, you see that skin is made to heal and all of that, correct?
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Kellogg, with respect to, again, non-acute examinations, in your professional experience, is DNA usually lingering on the individual or is DNA present or how often do you see it?
I'm going to object regarding the DNA question. She's a medical doctor, not a serologist. It could go beyond the scope of her expertise.
All right, if you want to take the witness on voir dire with that.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Kellogg, good morning. Good afternoon. Quick question. Have you ever conducted any sort of DNA testing or taken a DNA sample and interpreted the DNA results associated with that sample?
There's several parts to your question. I have collected DNA in the distant past.
Yes, ma'am.
but I do not analyze those results.
Do you have any information, personal knowledge? Do you have any personal knowledge as to how often DNA can be detected on the screening machines or mechanisms?
I'm sorry, how often DNA is detected?
Correct.
I have general knowledge based on research that's been presented and techniques that are being used to detect DNA. So it can be anywhere from, say, around 10% on up to 30%. But I think, again, that depends on so many different factors.
Thank
But
you.
these are acute exams we're talking about.
Thank you. So Judge,
All right, objection is sustained.
Your Honor, if I may briefly, with respect to this witness, I'm not asking about a matter of interpretation. It's really a binary. She did state in her testimony on the individual voir dire with respect to collection or non-collection. The state is only asking about her experience with collection or non-collection, not interpretation.
Right, you can ask what she collected. That's it.
May I ask if she collects in a general sense, Your Honor, or?
You may ask what she collected.
Dr. Kellogg, do you know why you're here today, specifically for today?
I know I'm here and with relative to the patient that I examined.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
May the record please reflect that I'm handing the witness what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit number 1. Now, Dr. Kellogg, do you recognize what I've just handed you?
Yes,
And Dr. Kellogg, what is that?
it's my report concerning Gabrielle Guerrero and an examination that was conducted on March the 3rd of 2021.
And Dr. Kellogg, this is your report.
Yes, sir.
And is this report made and conducted in the normal course of your operations, your job, your employment?
Yes.
And Dr. Kellogg, well, at this time, Your Honor, the state would move to admit what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 1 into evidence.
Judge, may we approach?
Yes. And Massey, Massey, number 1. Thank you.
It's in here, yes.
I don't have the whole pack, just paper, but I have the initial, the affidavit and the final by Michael. Mr. Villarreal,
Excuse me, thank you. My allergies,
yes.
they're trying to start on me. I'm not gonna do the thing where I'm feeling great, so I don't take my allergy medicine, so.
Oh, you want?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I only can tell one copy.
All right, for the jury?
No, I'm sorry.
All right, everyone, please be seated. State.
And Your Honor, state offers states exhibit number 1 into evidence.
All right, and,
With the court's prior ruling, we have no objection as after court ruling.
all right, then state's exhibit number 1 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. So, Dr. Kellogg, when looking at the report, just page 1, can you briefly just describe what we're seeing when we look at the middle of the page? When you go through the vitals, what are we looking at there, just to start off your report?
Okay, well, the vital signs are the height, the weight, the temperature, all of that. And I don't actually take that. That's taken by a medical assistant, and that's recorded here in the report. That assistant also screens for any kind of allergies or any medications that the patient may be on. Excuse me. And then towards the bottom of that page is the HPI. It stands for History of Present Illness. So that's the history that I took directly with Gabrielle.
And Dr. Kellogg, what is the importance of taking a history of individuals or patients that come in?
So this is important for my medical diagnosis and assessment of the patient's medical and mental health state.
And Dr. Kellogg, in that HPI, in that section, what was relayed to you, and what do we see in your report with respect to what Gabrielle communicated to you in terms of her history, medical?
Okay, can you give me a moment just to look?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. When I first talked with her, I spoke with her about the doctor-related questions, like if she had any past medical history that was significant. And ROS is review of systems. So I go through head to toe if they're having any symptoms. And I also ask about family, like who she was living with. In this part of the history, she said that she was living with her stepfather, 3 brothers, stepfather's son. She indicated she had no allergies. She's not taken any medications, has not been previously hospitalized. She had some minor kind of common childhood things, like she wears glasses for reading. She sometimes has allergy symptoms with pollens in the air. She did not indicate that she had any other like cardiovascular, pulmonary, any other system problems, either then or in the past. She is menstruating, so she's 14. She's had her menstrual cycles. That was the beginning of the history. And then I told her I wanted to ask her some questions about Brandon.
And Dr. Kellogg, when you asked her those questions about Brandon, what was relayed to you during the examination?
Well, she became tearful, so this was a little bit difficult for her, but she said that she identified him as a friend of her family, and that it started in 2020, a few months prior to when I was seeing her. She indicated that the last time anything happened was on February 13th of 2021. And I asked her to, I did this a little bit differently because she had already been seen by a medical provider at the Children's Hospital on 2/24, and they got information from her then. So what I did is I did not ask her to freely describe everything. I asked her to verify yes or no about the type of contact that she had told the other people.
And what did she relate to you, Dr. Keller?
She related to me that there was touching. So hand was on her, she gestured to her breast, then she gestured to her buttocks under her clothes. And then one time he put his private in her front private, and then his private in her mouth. And I also asked if he made her do anything to him, and her response was that he made me touch his private with my hand and with my mouth.
And Dr. Kellogg, on the next page, it's a continuation of the history. So on page 2 of your report, continuing on, I guess that first sentence right there at the top of page 2, what did Gabrielle then relate to you?
I asked her if she had had any kind of sexual touching with anyone else, and she denied any other person.
And then Dr. Kellogg, you had mentioned briefly in your report with things that had happened with Brandon Sierra had affected her sleeping or thinking, and what did she have a chance to relate to you?
She indicated she had trouble falling asleep and sometimes would have trouble focusing.
Now, Dr. Kellogg, in that next section, it's kind of annotated as the physical examination.
Well, the next, yes, that's correct. It says ROS, which is review of systems, so that's already in the main history that we covered.
And then with respect to the physical examination, what was the complainant Gabrielle's demeanor? You know, how did she act? What observations did you have?
So she, when I was talking to her about Brandon, she became tearful. And like I mentioned, it was difficult for her to speak at that time. But she was fully cooperative to the extent that she could be, given her distress.
And Dr. Kellogg, kind of at the tail end of the physical examination section, there's the female genitalia kind of subsection. Does that correspond with an anogenital exam, or kind of what does that section of your report demonstrate, show?
Yeah, so female genitalia section on my report includes both the genitals and the anus and what was observed on examination.
And then in the next section, can you briefly describe what a colposcope is?
A colposcope is like a big microscope, basically, and it doesn't touch the patient. It gives me light and a little bit of magnification, so I'm able to see the area better.
In what area specifically are you able to see better?
Genitals and anus.
And what were the results, or what were the findings, if you will, from that aspect of your examination?
She had a normal examination. It was a little bit of a difficult exam, not so much because she was not cooperative. She was cooperative, but everybody is different. And the anatomy in her was a little harder for me to completely examine, but I felt satisfied that there were no abnormalities on her exam.
And we briefly touched on this at the beginning of your kind of questioning here for this trial, but can you briefly describe what a normal examination is? Like, is that a proper term? Like, what is a normal finding?
A normal examination, the way I use it, means there's no visible acute or healed injury on the hymen or on the anus. So there's no scars that I'm seeing. There's no bruises, abrasions, tears that are visible on the exam.
And you briefly mentioned how quickly the hymen can heal. Can you briefly describe to the members of the jury what exactly a hymen is?
So the hymen is a tissue. It takes different shapes in different people. It's usually like a donut, so it does have an opening in the middle. And that tissue can sometimes tear or just bruise and not tear when there's some type of penetration. But that, again, it doesn't always happen.
And in non-acute examinations, how common is it to have a normal finding with no injury and no tearing of any kind?
Well, even with a history of penetration, which is not everybody, but with a history of penetration, more than 90% of those exams are going to be normal.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Dr. Kellogg, when you say 90% are gonna be normal, even with a history of penetration, that history is like an oral history provided from the patient to the provider, correct?
That's generally what I'm referring to.
So like a self-reporting circumstance, correct?
In most cases, there's some cases where it's a little bit different.
Okay. Now, taking a step back, officially for the record, what is your title at the Center for Miracles?
Professor of Pediatrics, Division Chief of Child Abuse.
Okay. Did you have a different title at the Center for Miracles at some point?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. My impression was that you're maybe the director of the Center for Miracles, the medical director?
No, I share some of those duties with Dr. Lucifer, but he's the official medical director of the clinic.
Fair enough. So my understanding is that there are two children programs, correct? There's the acute sexual assault exam program at the hospital, correct?
Yeah,
And then there's the program that you work in, the non-acute at the Center for Miracles, correct?
yeah.
And the Center for Miracles could be best described as like a doctor's office, correct?
It's an outpatient clinic.
Outpatient clinic in a regular building, very close to the hospital though, correct?
It's right across the street.
And of course, the acute program is in the hospital, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. And so if I understand you correctly, if a child describes being sexually abused within 24 hours, let's just say, that child will be directed to the hospital, correct?
usually, yeah.
Because it's within the 120 hours, correct?
Usually that's the case, yeah.
And because it's acute, acute means very recent. Jeff, it would be a fair thing to say in this circumstance?
Well, acute is within 120 hours. It's the way that we've set that up.
Okay. And my math is not the greatest. How many days is 120 hours?
5,
5 days? Okay.
I think so.
So let's say a child, a 10-year-old says, somebody had sex with me a year ago. They would go to your clinic, correct?
That's usually the case. There are exceptions to that.
Okay. And when a child is sent to the hospital, it usually means there's some indicator that the abuse took place within the last 5 days, correct?
That's usually, but not every situation,
In many circumstances.
in many circumstances.
And when the child goes to the hospital, there's an added procedure or step that's taken at the hospital, correct?
Again, depends a bit on the situation.
And at the hospital, the sexual nurse examiner can take what is known as a sexual assault kit or forensic kit from the child, correct?
When it's indicated, yeah.
So in that circumstance, the sexual assault examiner will swab the child's private area, correct?
Again, depends on the history.
But there is a circumstance for that.
Yes, it depends on the history of what kind of contact and when it occurred.
So let's just say,
A lot of other things to what they collect.
let's say a child describes having sex with an adult and child describes adult's mouth on the child, correct? So the provider would swab the child, correct, with the Q-tip, looking for DNA, correct?
Again, the timing of it is important. Yes, I think in general that's correct, but it just depends on the specific history.
Okay. And let me ask you this. When that swabbing is done, that forensic swabbing is done, it's put into a kit, correct, a box. And my understanding is that that kid is gonna be forensically examined, correct?
That's my understanding as well. I don't know the details of that.
Fair enough. Now, it's my understanding that that process is done to assist or aid in the investigation of the sexual assault. Would that be fair to say?
In generally speaking, yeah.
Okay, all right. And at your clinic, generally, the providers at your clinic don't do a sexual assault kit or forensic kit because it's accepted generally that if the abuse happened a year ago, you're not gonna find any forensic evidence. Is that fair to say?
So I'm not sure what your question is. You're saying outside 120 hours, we don't do a kit?
At your kit, at your clinic, generally,
Right.
if you're seeing a kid outside the 120 hours, generally, you're not gonna take samples from the kid, correct?
No, we would actually refer them back to the emergency room if we discovered that they had been sexually abused within 120 hours.
Okay. So it sounds like if you make that discovery, that kit is important to the process, correct?
Yes,
If a kit needs to be taken, it should be taken, correct?
if it needs to be taken, it should be taken. I agree with that.
And it's important for that kit to be done, correct?
In what circumstance?
Within the 5-day window.
Within the 5-day window, but also again, depending on a number of factors. For example, if somebody said they were touched with a hand over the clothes yesterday, I don't think they're going to do a kit.
No,
So it
that's a good
depends a
point.
bit on what the details are,
That's a fair point.
as to whether a kit would be done.
Let me ask you it this way, if I can. If you were examining a child and you determined that a sexual assault kit needed to be done, that would be important for the process, correct?
If I thought it needed to be done, then I would think I've made a decision it's important.
Correct. Okay. All right. Now, when a child goes to the hospital for an examination, from time to time, are those reports from the child, the charts from the child, are they sent to you for review?
Sometimes I'm not medical director of the program anymore, so I'm only covering for somebody if I'm reviewing a chart.
But from time to time, if a child went to the hospital to be examined on a sexual assault exam, they would forward the report to you so you could review. From time to time, that would happen, correct?
It doesn't happen anymore, that's what I'm trying to say. If I'm medical director or covering for medical director, then yes, I get those shots.
Now,
But
in
I'm not,
2021, were you examining reports from the hospital of children seen at the hospital? Were you examining reports in 2021?
occasionally.
Okay. Now, in order to prepare for your review of today's chart, the chart that you read from, it sounds like you had an awareness that the patient was seen at the hospital, correct?
Yeah,
And you saw the child. What day did you see the child?
March the 3rd of 2021.
And the child went to the hospital on April 24th, correct?
Not April, February 24th.
Excuse me, February 24th, child went to the hospital.
Mhm.
And at the hospital, she was seen, or she was seen by Ed Russell, correct?
Ed did not examine her, no.
No,
Um,
not necessarily.
yeah.
Go ahead, please.
What happened on 2/24 is that they came to the hospital. There was going to be a very long wait for their sexual assault exam. But because it was 11 days from the last time any sexual contact occurred, they offered the family the option of coming to Center for Miracles for a non-acute exam. So what they did is they did some testing then for STDs, and they referred her to us for the physical examination.
And When you said Ed Russell did not examine her, do you know if Ed Russell spoke to her or met with her?
I'm not sure. I looked at his note, and it's not really clear to me, other than to say, would you be okay with being referred for another exam? So that wasn't clear to me when I reviewed the documentation.
May I approach, Judge?
Yes.
Dr. Kellogg, I'm going to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 1. The Defense Exhibit number 1.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So in State's Exhibit number 1, in reviewing it, this does appear to be a record from the hospital, correct? Krista Santa Rosa.
Yeah,
Okay. And this is the hospital where the acute sexual assault program is housed, correct? Okay. And it does appear that Gabrielle Guerrero is associated with this record, correct?
yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to ask you to review this paragraph here. If you can read it to yourself silently, and then I'd like to ask you some questions about it.
Yes, sir. Okay.
Now, according to Defense Exhibit number 1, it appears that a provider or medical staff took information from Ms. Guerrero, correct?
A medical staff, yeah.
Medical staff, okay. And according to this document, Ms. Guerrero describes being choked as associated with the sexual assault, correct?
Yeah,
Okay. And she does not describe being choked when she met with you, correct?
she did not.
Dr. Kellogg, I'm going to show you what's been marked as Defense Exhibit number 2. And is Defense Exhibit number 2 a record from the same hospital that we're referring to, Children's Hospital, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And it appears that this record was created on February 24th, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And it's associated with Gabrielle Guerrero, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to review this portion here. And I'd like to ask you some questions once you review it.
Okay.
In Defense Exhibit number 2, Ms. Guerrero describes having difficulty with bowel movements, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And also what she describes is, if I read this correctly, having a hard time passing bowels, and that she hasn't had a bowel movement in 4 days, correct?
The section that you marked is a general information section about, it doesn't pertain to the patient specifically, other than to give general instructions about what constipation is and what to expect.
Okay,
So this is not a reflection of what this patient was saying about her constipation.
prior to your testimony today, did you review any of the medical hospital records for your testimony?
Yeah,
Do you remember reviewing a section of the report, the hospital report, that describes, she was examined for having stomach problems?
I remember stomach problems being described.
And do you remember that she underwent an X-ray?
Yeah,
And do you remember the interpretation of the X-ray was that it's entirely possible that either her stools were backed up or that she was constipated?
yeah, it's possible that she was constipated.
And would it be fair to say that these symptoms that she's describing were a significant concern for her because she's describing these symptoms?
I don't know if I can answer that question. She came in because of the sexual abuse and also had abdominal pain, so I don't know which was more important. I don't know.
Now, do you remember in the hospital medical record, there's a portion where it lists various symptoms that might be associated with sexual abuse? Specifically, there was a portion that asks, was she experiencing dysuria?
Whether she what?
There's a condition that occurs, a burning sensation when a person urinates. What is that called?
Dysuria,
Dysuria.
yeah.
And she was asked whether she was experiencing a burning sensation when she urinated. And she indicated no, she was not experiencing that. Do you remember that?
I don't remember that specific detail.
Now, dysuria, my understanding is that, let me ask you this, why is dysuria significant for somebody evaluating a child for possible sexual abuse?
Well, with sexual abuse, dysuria, which is pain on urination, can occur when there's actual injury in the area. So it hurts to pee when you have an abrasion or a bruise or something. But it also can mean urinary tract infection. And urinary tract infections in some individuals are more associated with sexual contact.
So if a teenager had sexual intercourse and with sexual intercourse, is it possible that the sexual intercourse could have caused physical irritation on the tissue of the vagina, inside the vagina?
Yes,
And my understanding is that when that occurs, from time to time, when the female urinates, it causes a burning sensation because of the irritation on the vaginal tissue. Would that be a fair statement?
sometimes that's the cause of it.
My understanding is that Ms. Guerrero did not report a burning sensation to the medical staff, correct?
Are you talking about the 224 examination now?
Either exam. She did not
Um,
report.
I don't recall the documentation on that for this exam. I don't, if I can look at my notes, I don't know that I made a note of anything that the time she's seeing me on March the 3rd. She didn't have complaint at the time she saw me, but she said she had previous kidney or bladder infection.
Okay. But she did not describe to you a burning sensation when she urinated, correct?
Not at the time I was seeing her on March 3rd.
Yes, ma'am. And towards the end of your report, there's an indication that she had an HPV vaccination.
Yeah.
2 of them.
Yeah.
From a medical standpoint, can you tell us why that is significant?
Well, the HPV vaccine or Gardasil is a vaccine that teenagers are getting and young adults are getting to prevent cervical cancer. but it also tends to prevent venereal warts. So in all my kids that are age eligible to get the vaccine, I always have a discussion about whether or not they've had the vaccine. If they haven't, I give them some information to help them make a decision.
And these vaccinations were not given at your clinic, correct?
They're not anymore. We used to offer them, but most of these kids are vaccinated, so.
Okay, but Ms. Guerrero, the clinic did not give Ms. Guerrero HPV vaccination, correct?
She didn't. She'd already completed the series.
So this information, she had received 2 HPV vaccinations. She had already received them before she got here at another time in her life.
Right.
We'll pass to witness. Judge.
State.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right, is this witness excused?
Excuse from the state, Your Honor.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you may step
Thank
down.
you.
Thank you. All right, we can go off the record. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna start tomorrow at 1:30. We cannot start unless everyone, oh, you may be excused. We cannot start unless everyone is here at 1:30. We have your numbers and you have our number, so if there's an issue, please make sure you call. Otherwise, we will be waiting upon you. And again, the trial is not over. I give that instruction because someone before thought the trial was over. So it's not over. So just make sure you're back here at 1:30. You can bring drinks into the courtroom. Just make sure there's a cap on it. Sometimes the temperature in here, people say it's cold. Usually it's 90 degrees. But if you want to bring in a jacket or something with you, I always tell people it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it, because we don't have any extra jackets. The other thing is, if you want to bring your lunch in, you're more than welcome to bring your lunch. There's a refrigerator and a microwave, and I believe a toaster oven in the jury room. To be assured possibly of having a parking space, it is probably best if you arrive here no later than 12:30. The reason why I say that is because the people who work in the building, they usually go off campus for lunch. They don't stay downtown, or either they have errands to run. If you try to come here and arrive at exactly 1:30, everybody who works in this building is going to already be at the garage, and the same number of jurors that were called up today are going to be the same number of jurors that are called up for tomorrow, and they'll have the parking space as well. Any questions before I release you? All right. Final thing, and you're going to get tired of me saying this, and you're going to have it memorized. Make sure you have your badges visibly displayed when you're in the courthouse, because people tend to talk about different cases. Do not do any research. Do not Google any names. Do not look at any type of media. Everything that you're supposed to know about this case is only to come from inside this courtroom. Do not start talking about any testimony that you've heard or mentally thinking about things about this case. Once you leave this courtroom, leave the case in the courtroom. I will let you know when it's time to deliberate. Does everyone understand? All right. And guess what? We saved you from the rush hour traffic. So that's a good thing. But tomorrow you will be released at 4:30. All right, everyone, please rise for